Hi, good afternoon. I think it's 5:36. We're a little bit past over the 5:30 mark, but it was good conversation in the beginning. So I just want to welcome everybody. My name is Belen Leon. I'm the Air Pollution Control Officer, and we have here.
Israel Hernandez. I'm the project manager for air pollution. I guess we'll just kind of do a little. Okay. Well, yeah, I've been for the past year or so. I've been at the air district for as project manager, but I've been at the air district for about 14 years, and in those other 13 years, I've been in the permitting engineering department as an air pollution control permit engineer. And at certain point, senior engineer. So just that's why there's less hair.
It makes a difference. We also have other staff here. We have Marco Peroni, Adriana, and Mario as well, and Miguel. Sorry, Miguel. Just looking on this side.
You know what? Before we continue, I think we'll. Okay.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes. We are team, and I just wanted to ensure one that needed interpretation. Estaba simplemente verificando mejor con esto. Ahí está. Good afternoon, buenas tardes. I was saying that we do have interpretation available. Tenemos interpretación simultánea disponible. Si alguna de ustedes se siente más cómoda, más cómodo en español, por favor levanten la mano y les podemos traer un auricular para que puedan escuchar la sesión en español. As we move forward, if you do have Spanish speakers with you, we will invite all of you. It doesn't seem like there is anybody today, but if that does happen, we'll invite anybody who's monolingual in English to also grab a headset. That way, if anybody speaks Spanish, you'll hear it interpreted into English. For the time being, it doesn't seem that way. Pero si alguien cambia de opinión, avísenos, les llevamos un receptor.
Sorry for the interruption, Belen. You're in. I guess we do have other district staff here, and
I think I already introduced the other staff, which I.
All right, sorry about that. I was a little preoccupied. We do have staff from ARB also. I don't know if they'd like to introduce themselves, or should we just call up on Femi?
Femi Olalowoy, I'm one of the chiefs here at the Community Air Resources Board. So my team works on AB 617 programs. We work on the blueprint process, which we're undergoing right now, which we go to the board with in September. We do our community selection process, as well as our grants and incentives in the program. So happy to join you all today, and thank you for coming.
Okay, well, I'd like to start.
Buenas tardes, Fernando Amador with the California Air Resources Board, and I'm the supervisor for the community air monitoring portion of this district, and we'll be reviewing and helping out with writing of the community air monitoring plan.
Ivy Osornio, California Air Resources Board, the Monitoring and Laboratory Division. I'm also the liaison for the corridor community.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cynthia Wong. I am also from the California Air Resources Board as an air pollution specialist in the community air assessment section. And I'm also a liaison for this community. I'm really excited to be here and support you all.
Anybody else that I'm missing from the CARB staff? Go ahead, Israel.
Well, first of all, I'd like to start with thank you very much for taking the time to come to join us this afternoon. And I know time is very important to all of us, and I think we should go ahead and start with our presentation. I guess in any type of situation, I mean, the first thing that we have to pretty much, I guess, know is what we're doing. That's why we called on the professionals. We wanted to give. I know there's a good number of you that actually that did submit applications for our steering committee. So one thing that we wanted to start this meeting with was with an overview of the program, what the program's about, what we're here to do, and Femi is going to be helping us with that. What do you like? All right.
I just want to say I was voluntold for this. Do you want me to control that, or? All right, let's start with the first slide. So I'm one of those people who, when I start talking, I just get going. So I needed to write some notes for myself just to make sure I stay on track here. But like I said, just introducing myself. I'm one of the chiefs here in the Community Air Protection Program for the state, and I wanted to just give a brief overview of the program. So I'll just take about 10 minutes to talk about some of what we do in the program and the basis for our program and our background in general. So AB 617 is a legislation that provides important new tools to make sure that all communities benefit equally from clean air programs, especially those that bear the greatest burden. The Community Air Protection Program's focus is to reduce emissions and exposure to the communities most impacted by air pollution. It does this in a couple of ways. First, by developing community air monitoring plans and community emission reduction programs, using incentive funding to deploy cleaner technologies, and developing tools to provide greater transparency and availability of air quality data. Okay, no, that's good. So this slide is really the slide before. This slide is showing the fundamental elements of our program, starting with the partnerships with communities, and then also making sure that we are aware of any statewide strategies, whether it be through CARB or strategies of reducing air pollution with the district, creating community air plans, which we'll talk about later today. Also, I want to draw attention to the incentives investments, something that we're really taking a hard look at, expanded air monitoring opportunities, as well as, again, improving the data that we have and improving our way of actually communicating that data. So making tools available for that purpose. This next slide is just some history on the program. As you see, we started in 2018, so you can see the 10 communities that started the program, the 7 that started as a camp and SERP, one of them being an Imperial, like that top bullet there, but also a couple that started with just camps and a couple that started with just a SERP. And as you can see, chronologically, we've moved down and created more and more communities, and ending with the most recent, which is you guys and the Bayview Hunters Point community in the Bay Area. Also drawing attention to this implementation year, after a community develops their SERP, they start implementation. That usually takes about a year or 2 before we get to the implementation phase. So you can see that there are about 7 communities that are in their 4th year of implementation now, and it just starts to scale from that point. So you can see the kind of the progress of communities and how they develop their plans and how they start to implement them throughout the life of the program. So these are action types that generally are what we consider as part of a community emission reduction program. So really highlighting, these are the types that generally a community will look at, whether it's new rules or how do we apply existing rules, looking at certain facilities and how we are reducing emissions from those. Community focused enforcement is something that we've been talking about fairly recently and trying to elevate that as part of our program. Again, I mentioned incentives, but also this piece on land use, transportation, and mitigation, where we talk about how do we form partnerships with the agencies that have jurisdiction over these types of items. How do we look at that as part of this program, understanding that we don't have the authority to do these things ourselves, but we do have an ability to at least maybe amplify the need, amplify some of the messages that we hear as part of this program, whether it be in Imperial or across the state. Oh, so sorry. Another thing about our agency is we are very acronym heavy. So under the acronym salads, we will try to reduce. CAMP is Community Air Monitoring Plan. So any of the monitoring that you guys want done across the district, you'll create a plan telling the district, we want to have monitors in these particular areas across our community. The emission reduction program is, back to that last slide, is what we say. We want to look at these types of strategies, these types of actions, like looking at more how we do certain regulations. How do we pay attention to that in our area? Where do we do our enforcement in our area? How do we do it? How do we plan for that? How do we make sure the community is aware of these types of things that are available? How do we look at incentives? How do we look at any of those other action types? Just how do we do that with regard to our community? And also really also wanted to emphasize taking a look kind of around what other communities are doing. So it's not, you don't have to recreate the wheel. It's like, what are these other communities doing that they are finding that works for us? Because we may be able to actually implement that in our community as well. So kind of just thinking about all those things. But again, later on, we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that as part of our presentation today. So reimagine. So let me stay on that slide for now. Reimagining the program is what we've been part of our blueprint process over the past years or more, really. And wanting to understand, how do we take what we've learned over the last 5 years of operating this program and export that out so that it's not just the selected communities that are benefiting from what we do in the program? How do we make this available to any community that suffers these types of concerns or has raised these concerns to us? So this light blue side is kind of the new elements that we've been talking about in our new blueprint. We can provide links to that later if any of you want to take a look at that. But one of the things that we are trying to do that we don't necessarily see a lot in state agencies is we are actually explicitly saying this is an justice and civil rights issue. It's not, these things didn't just happen to us on accident. These were things that were done on purpose, put in our positions that we are having to live in were done to us on purpose. So we are actually recognizing and acknowledging that and highlighting that as part of our blueprint. We are talking more about funding transparency and participatory budgeting. How do we understand what money is available to us in this program? How do we spend that money in a way that benefits our communities the best? Community-focused enforcement. How do we understand where we should enforce, what would make the most impact in terms of enforcement in our communities or in our district? How do we understand that both at the district and CARB level, maybe even beyond, or at the local level? Local services, more talking about how do we use our expertise from our community-based organizations and our tribal folks to understand how do we engage more people in this work? How do we have to have them understand AB 617? How do we understand what their needs are? Local SERPs are ways that they can actually create their own plans without being selected to work, create their own steering committee, outside of selected community and kind of engage in that similar work themselves and lead that work themselves in a sense. Again, cap incentives. How do we create more availability through cap incentives that what exists now, such that they are not just opportunities that exist within the selected community scope, but actually beyond that statewide. So that's something that our team is working on as well. Next slide. So this is a kind of a guideline of our blueprint where it's based on two parts. The first part is our strategic plan, where we talk about the vision for the program, our mission generally, and some guiding principles that will align with that and kind of give us a scope of what we are intending to do in the program over the next 5 years. The implementation guidance is actually more of a how-to manual in a sense. It's saying, how do you engage in this program, whether you are selected or not? What are the different ways that we can actually work with you to provide the support that you're looking for as part of this program? So it's significantly informed by the People's Blueprint, which was created last year or the year before as part of a process for understanding how other communities look at what they need in their community, and we try to incorporate a lot of that into our current blueprint. And again, just kind of reiterating some of what I mentioned before, these other elements that we've again learned as part of the last 5 years. How are we expanding upon that? How are we making that more available across the state? Again, not just concentrating on the selected communities, but going beyond that. So I talked about incentives. Our incentive guidelines are available now. And what we've done is actually refine or revise some of what's been there in the past, and also create some new chapters based on some of the projects that we've heard of as part of this program. Is something that projects that have come up actually through the community and are community driven, but we decided to make them not just available to that community, but to every community. So the updated chapters, again, the Hex Chrome chapter, this is one that really impacts more of the South Coast, kind of the LA-ish area, but they were looking to reduce those types of plating opportunities, and that was done through their air tax and control measures. So we updated our guidelines to align with what's being done as part of the control measure. Reducing air pollution in schools, those are a couple of, that's a chapter with a couple of sub-chapters like air filtration. What we've done there is actually expand that beyond schools, looking at now, what can we do in hospitals? What can we do in community centers like this? Or what can we do in libraries? Things that make those more available, again, just expanding the scope of that. Community identified projects, these are the projects that were developed by communities, of selected communities. So what we did there is separate that chapter from the stationary source chapter. Those were one chapter before, we just separated them out just for clarity, really. We didn't make very many changes there, but just there was some confusion about which chapter is which, so we just try to make it a little bit clear. The new chapters, agency partnerships, again, I talked about how do we engage more with our local partners? How do we engage more with other state agencies? How do we engage more with federal agencies where we can actually provide more support, whether it be through funding or any type of other work? So we created a chapter that allows for that through our incentive funding. So that's our agency partnerships. Vegetative barriers and urban greening. Again, how to provide more green spaces for communities that are looking for that. Diesel generator is more for just replacing kind of old diesel equipment or old diesel generators that are used in emergency situations. So that's a little bit more specialized, but paving, sidewalk, and bike path, again, where can we provide more paving opportunities? Where's that available? We want to make that something that's available statewide rather than just in certain communities. Dial-a-ride vehicle replacement, that's sort of a specialized one as well, but one that we heard a lot of concern for earlier. So we wanted to see if we could provide that available as well. So when we talk about how do we make our tools more accessible or information more accessible, it's by creating these types of tools. As you guys know, there's a lot of data that comes at you as part of this program, and that's going to remain the case. But how can we present that data to you in a way that's easy to understand for all of us? So the AQ View is actually something that provides where monitors are throughout the state. So AQ View, that's put together by one of our divisions that it leads the monitoring and emissions. So they create that tool there, and you can see any monitor that's throughout the state. You can see it whether it be in your community or not. The story map is something we're still working on, but again, it's just something that will provide more information on what's going on in certain communities. The technology clearinghouse is more source related, so more based on like what actually is being emitted in our area, whether it be diesel smoke or something along those lines. This will tell you what technologies and what rules are being done in that area. So this is probably our largest tool in terms of information and data. But again, just trying to make it accessible for you all to be able to see it. Incentives dashboard was one of our newest tools. Tells you exactly how much money is being spent so far, where it's being spent, what it's being spent on, what type of projects are happening in any of the districts. So it's a great tool for understanding how incentives are being used across the state. I think that's my last slide. Okay. This is just our leadership tree for now. So you can see my deputy executive officer for environmental justice is Chanel Fletcher. My direct supervisor is Deldy Reyes. So some of you might have already know her or worked with her. So, and then just my name underneath my email address. So again, happy to be available for anyone if there's any questions or comments or suggestions on any of the information we're sharing here. But again, just wanted to give you just a hopefully brief. I can sometimes not be too brief, I know, but hopefully just at least a sampler of kind of what we do in the program and what's available to everyone. And please, I'll be around for the rest of the meeting. So anytime, please, if you have any questions, let me know. Sure. So we mainly help out with the funding. We do have a community air grants program, which might be what you're talking about. We do a solicitation for that, so folks can kind of pick from the types of program types that we have. I only touched on it a little bit because it was in that slide with the local SERPs as one of those. But we can definitely provide some assistance on how to do that. I think that's something we've heard in the past. There's several different grants available, so it may also come down to which program is actually running that grant, because it might not be through us. But we can do our best to, if we don't know ourselves, we're going to do our best to at least put you in touch with who would be the best contact for that.
Excuse me, you need to speak into the mic in order for the translation services to work. But that- this is better.
No, I was just wondering if your agency will allow us to have access to some sample grants,
To-
because in our community, in our city of Calipatria, we don't have a grant writer. So we wanted to see if maybe that was available, like as a resource.
Let me look into that, because I'm not sure if we have that available now. I haven't actually thought about that myself. I know we have the folks who have current grants that's online, what like their scope of work and all that is, but their actual like application is that like what their application look like? That I'm not sure, so I can kind of look into that.
And then my final question is, can a community apply for multiple grants? For example, if we want to do a sidewalk project, but we also want to do another
Mhm.
project that's a little different, we're able to do that?
That's, I would say, the expectation is that you look into more than one type of like project type. Like sidewalk might be a priority, but maybe there's some other things like you want to see more trucks go from diesel to electric vehicles, like stuff like that. Maybe you want to see more infrastructure around. So that is definitely something that
Thank
is part
you.
of the program.
Right. If you have any questions, make sure you raise your hand so that we speak into the microphone, since we're translating the event.
So with relation to her question about grant writers being something that would be useful in our communities, could the steering committee, as part of their community air monitoring plan, allocate some of these funds to, I guess, hire contract grant writers within this project in order to, enhance what we're trying to do?
Yeah, I think subcontracting in general is available through the program. It's just a matter of how do we put together that type of plan, and what time does that take, and if there are ways that maybe even we can supplement that in a sense, so kind of lower the cost of that. I don't know what that would cost. So it's kind of a matter of how do we strategically use our funding in a way that helps the communities, but that's definitely something that you guys can take a look at.
Any other questions for Femi before he? You don't want to go out there right now. It's too hot.
No, right, I'm all right. No, I just got here too.
Well,
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Again, I'll be around. The rest of my CARB team will be around as well. So happy to help however we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Femi. And thank you for coming down here and kind of giving us that brief overview.
I think we're getting used to these new technology here. Just to expand a little bit on your questions about grant writing, I could discuss this from the current corridor that we have. We do have a current corridor of El Centro, Heber, and Calexico. We were working on that corridor for the past 4.5 years. We're going to expand on that in a little bit more. But a lot of the grant funding or the grants that were written with that current corridor, and one of the slides that was mentioned, which is the urban greening and the paving projects, and also the air filtration systems, were done with a grant writer. We did hire Ramble, who helped us with the SERPs and the camps. You'll be hearing SERPs and camps a lot. And also a chapter 10 that we'll be explaining some other time that included those 3 type of grants. So yes, we do have help we could also hire Rambo through this system, and any new projects that you would like to include in that.
Okay. Well, I know Femi's presentation was really good. I mean, one thing that comes out of that is you could see how extensive the program is, and try reading all the guidelines for that. We're here to kind of simplify it a little, I guess. So what I see the biggest benefit of this AB 617 is that it gives the power to the local community. The state through CARB, they created this program, and what it does is that it sends funds locally into the community so that we could do emission reduction projects, so that we could do a camp, which is that community air monitoring plan, locally, because obviously the local community is the one that knows what the issues are locally. Someone that's in Sacramento, maybe coming from the permitting background, I mean, there's certain rules that the state does that we apply locally that's applied throughout the whole state, but locally would not make sense. And this program, this is the biggest benefit of the program, is that it's a local, it's headed or geared towards the local community. The local community is the one that identifies the sources that might have an issue, emissions issue. I mean, your monitoring plan is done through the input, through the recommendations of the steering committee, so that the steering committee, the community, is the one that knows where there might be local hotspots, and we want to support that monitoring. That those hotspots, or we want to make sure that those hotspots are supported through monitoring, through monitors. And well, the whole purpose of this meeting today is so that we let the steering committee kind of know what's going to be expected of them. I mean, it's going to be a commitment, and I know we have members of our South corridor, Centro Hebrew and Calexico present, and they could testify to the hardships and how hard it was, I guess, in the extensive process to come up with the plans. Well, I'll get back to the slide. Okay. Well, just kind of back. This the North Imperial Phase 1 community, which includes the city of Brawley-Westmorland-Calipatria, was approved by the CARB board February 2023. It was approved for a community air monitoring plan and a community emission reduction program. I know some of you, we saw in those 3 workshops that we had earlier this year, a couple of months back, and we stole these slides from that from those slides from that presentation, because we want to stress this. The key responsibilities in order for this program to work the way it's meant to work, we do need that partnership with the CARB, with the Air District, and with the community. Obviously, with that partnership, there's certain responsibilities that each one of us is going to have. We're going to the key responsibilities from CARB. I mean, they'll implement those the new statewide strategies, design programs, requirements, and provide oversight and issue the community grants. Currently, their blueprint, or the blueprint, which is pretty much the guide for the program, is being updated, and we're looking forward to those updates, because it's actually going to make it easier for emission reduction projects to be completed. And it opens up the types, the number or the types of projects that we could we can work on. Key responsibilities from the Art District. Obviously, partner with communities and on the community air monitoring plan and the community emission reduction programs. Provide the incentive funds. Requires stronger pollution controls and engage with local agencies. Key responsibilities from the community. That's to provide direction on community concerns and air quality programs. Partner with the Air District on community air monitoring and emission reduction programs. Okay. You put this slide on here, the steering committee roles. As I said, we do have a lot of the applicants present, and I do appreciate your time. As far as one of the roles for the as a steering committee member, I'll start referring to as the CSC. Okay. That'll be the steering committee. Steering committee. Again. All right. The roles for the committee. We actually have to start the committee. It's the state says, okay, you've been approved for this AB 617 corridor community, but it's up to us. It's up to that partnership. And in this stage, it's actually more into the partnership of the district and the community, because we have to start that committee. Obviously, if that's where this program is different. Any other program would have said, okay, here's all the rules, here's the bylaws, you get a few people from the committee and just follow them. But it's not the case. It's not that's not the case. And this and under AB 617, the steering committee has to come up with those bylaws, or first of all, or the code of conduct. We, as the district, we want to have the recommendations of the community through the committee and their input, so that we actually come up with the code of conduct that the committee feels comfortable with. Not only the code of conduct, but also the committee, the charter. Let's see. And one benefit that we have is that we actually have an existing community, which is Centro Heber and Calexico. So I heard the phrase a little bit earlier, why reinvent the wheel? Obviously, it's not going to be the same, because even within the county, our south community, there's different things or different issues that our community or the north end community has, and that's why we're going to the community to make sure that we identify those differences. Obviously, this is a draft code of conduct that the next meeting will be presenting. It's a starting point. We'll be asking for your recommendations or your input into it. The Community Steering Committee Charter. Those are pretty much the bylaws that we're all going to be following during the meetings. It goes into details. There's stipends. There's on this draft that we're working on, so that we present something as a starting point for the committee to have, and we're looking for your commitment. So we do have a section under that that we're thinking of putting that the members cannot miss more than 3 times in a row, unless they do ask for some leave of absence. And like I said, it's all through the committee that we have to approve those. The community air monitoring plan. Really simple. Obviously, it's a whole plan. We cannot go over it. We cannot go over the whole thing this afternoon. And I do have a couple of copies that were that I printed from the existing blueprint. And Marco, can you help me pass them out, please? Yep. It's that's pretty much like a copy of what's in the existing blueprint. It kind of goes a little bit into what the camp and the CERT are, and I wanted to pass these out so that we start thinking about what the process is going to involve and what are the items that those plans have to have. And maybe in our next meeting, we'll go a little bit further into it. All right. Yes, Chris. Oh, sorry.
I was just thinking about the duration of this. It seems like some communities have been established 4 or 5 years ago. Does this go until certain emission reductions are met, certain money's gone, or just a calendar date? I was just wondering, how long does this program go for?
That's one of the biggest questions that's going on right now. And
Fanny, do you want to take a stab at it?
So the plans start out as this kind of like a 5-year plan. And that was generally based on the development of like a new regulation. Putting that in place usually takes about a span of 5 years. So we use that as like this metric for how long do we think it would take to put together something like a community emission reduction program for a community. So 5 years is our general kind of timeline. Now, I think one of the things that we've also learned over the last 5 years is a lot of these elements take longer than that. So it's really seeing through the actual plan altogether. So yeah, it could take longer than 5 years. We don't have this determined timeline where we say we just cut at that point. I think it's more, when does the community feel like we've reached the success point for this program or this plan? And then that's what we're doing. Now, I'll be here and in Sacramento fighting for money to not run out. It is an annual fight, as you'll probably hear throughout this. We are annually justifying this program to legislature every year. So that is something that's on me and my bosses that I showed you earlier. So we continue to do that. So I'm going a little bit beyond your question, but what I will say is some of what we do when we talk about emission reduction programs is really trying to show that the money that we are getting, we are using in a very, I want to say cost effective, but a very intelligent in a sense manner. So we're saying we are not only looking at projects that actually reduce emissions in our community, but we're looking, for anywhere that we can provide that type of resource in a sense. So it goes into strategically planning how you want to use the funding. And when we talk about participatory budgeting, how do we use the money in our community? What are we doing? That kind of factors into all of that. So again, it's a lot, like Israel said, there's a lot to this program, but again, we're trying to make sure that we are communicating and explaining all these different elements so that it makes sense to everyone and that we don't just bombard you with information that, okay, go figure it out. No, it's like, hey, we are going to just tell you, these are the different things in our program. We're going to incrementally tell you step by step by step. This is what we've learned over the last 5 years. Like, don't just drop it on everybody and expect them to figure it out. It's like, hey, how do we make this easy to understand? Maybe even make it fun and entertaining. I'll leave that to Israel and Berlin. Maybe there's a way to do that too. But just trying to make sure that everybody's engaged in how we and learning in this program, how best we can.
Sorry, how do you allocate the money? It's just based on impact or what?
So the money that's allocated through the program goes is statewide for each district. So the implementing districts work together to figure out how they want to allocate the money throughout the district. A lot of it's due to population or size or how many communities they have. So like I'll say an example is South Coast District, largest of our districts, has 6 communities. So with that, they get the most money to operate in those communities. So it's kind of along those lines.
Okay. I'll go a little bit more into the camp. I mean, one of the things that we do have to look is these 3 elements that are part of the camp, and we're not expecting the committee to show up one meeting and say, okay, this is the camp, we approve it, and that's it. No, it's a whole process. So we do have to look into these 3 elements. Determine the reason for conducting community air monitoring. I like it better the way they put it in that handout. In the handout, they put it as a question. And what's that question? The first one in the handout? Let's make it exciting. I was gonna make the presentation a little bit more fun and exciting, but I thought it wasn't the right place for that.
What is the reason for conducting community air monitoring?
So as a question, I think we're a little bit more inclined to answer questions, and that's how I see it a little bit better. I wanted to give the handout so that so that you would take it home and kind of look at it or look at the questions and start thinking about it. The second, describe how the community air monitoring will be conducted. The third, identify how the data will support actions to reduce air pollution within the community. I mentioned that to determine the reason for conducting community air monitoring, it's the community that's going to see where that monitoring, where the monitoring is needed, and what type of monitoring, what type of pollutants you're going to want to monitor, and also once we go through the monitoring, how that data is going to be used. Obviously, we want to get to a point where we are identifying hotspots so that we as the district or the committee recommend ways to improve that. Yep. What's the second question? Any volunteers for that second question? I saw Virginia raise her hand. Yes.
How will monitoring be conducted?
I will be expecting the whole committee to answer that one next time, okay? Who wants to answer that third question? There you go.
How will the data be used to take action?
That question, we don't have to answer it next week, but or next meeting. We'll have a little bit more few of meetings to answer that one. But that's your homework. Sorry. The next one is the community emission reduction program, and obviously, I see this slide, and it's that's a lot to go through. Oh, look. I guess we have a clapper. I'll take care of it, Marco. We'll go to the next slide. Let's see. All right, under the community emission reduction program, we, as a community, we have to look at the type of emission reduction strategies that that will be using in order to reduce emissions. And part of the right now, the CARB, what CARB is doing and working on is updating the blueprint. But with that update, they're also updating the guidelines. And Femi went over some of the chapters that they're updating, and also including new chapters. The new chapters, those are the guidelines for the type of projects that can be used. The new chapters are projects that have been already identified by other communities, and that's where I see the benefit of this community. This is the 4th year, I believe, the 4th year. So there's already been a lot of work done previously from other communities. We're happy to say that one of before with the South corridor, one of the community identified projects was actually paving, and that made it to the chapter list. So we're happy for that one. But also it opens up the community's recommendation as far as what type of projects that we would be able to do in this new SERP. In the South, what we've done previously, the type of projects we've done air filtration systems in the schools. There's parking lot paving. I believe that's the one at the Hebers Elementary. We've replaced some of the school buses with the electric buses, including the charger. We've done urban greening projects. This is actually our monitoring station that we conducted. There was a year-long monitoring at the New River, so that we would see what type of pollutants were there, and that's we have a plan for that one to move it along the New River so that we continue with that monitoring. Obviously, yes, these were community identified projects. So those new, I believe there's 12 chapters now, 12 new chapters that are projects that have already been identified that we would just be able to just select and continue and do those type of projects. Or there's chapter 6 type of projects that are community identified projects. If we see that that this community is in need of something different that other communities have not thought about, or that do not have that need, we can come up with that type of project. But obviously we have to go through a whole process. We have to identify the project. We have to go through, I guess last time we had a consultant come in and help us do the grant or the project description, and we send it to CARB for their approval. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Like you said about the grants, or you bring somebody in, a consultant or something, does that money come from the monies that they already assigned for that section or for that district or whatever? Or where does that money come from?
As far as the monies that are received, there's a grant that is assigned to the air district to implement the plan, the AB 617, the community for implementation. So the district does get a certain amount of funds for that implementation. And usually, if there's a need of consultants, if the steering committee sees that there's a need of consultants, that's where those funds will come from. This community is a new community, also has funds, a grant for implementation, for incentive projects. and that's its own fund. That's its own monies. One thing I do want to stress that our community right here in Brawley-Westmorland-Calipatria, those funds are this is the first year, so they're a lot they're less than what the South End had received. So a lot of those projects that we might have been able to do in the South are going to be a little bit more. I think that's where we need your recommendations. The committee is the one that's going to decide where that money or what type of projects that money goes to. So, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Let me,
So let's say there's $3 million. Will it be earmarked like $1 million for each city? Calipatria, Westmoreland, Brawley? Or will it depend on the projects that we apply for?
well, let's say it's 3.75 million. Okay. That's actually what the grant is for the incentives. It's I'll ask Belen to kind of go a little bit further on that because it's the way. Belen will talk about that. Or if you want, I could take it. I'll say it. Okay. I think that was the way of her telling me you say it. Obviously, the community, the identified community is Brawley-Westmorland-Calipatria. If what's going to determine that, I think, is actually it's the committee. It's the committee, the one that has to identify or will identify which type of projects they want to do. If they want to allocate certain monies to each city, we're just there to help with the process. So what the plan is, and obviously this is the plan because we have to provide some type of starting point. So on the Air District side, what we're planning to propose is that we do have three committee members for each city. And that's 3 committee members that are going to be primary and 3 alternates. So if you do get into a primary position, you're going to be asked to select one of the applicants to be your alternate, so that more or less your views are in line to what your primary person is or views are. And the whole process, the way it works is once the committee has identified the type of projects they want to do, we have to go through the whole process, follow the guidelines within those chapters, and we have to go out for requests for proposals. So we put out the request for proposal within the North End community, and then either the cities, the schools, industry, they'll submit applications for that type of project. And then the committee is the one, we as a district, we gather all those applications, we put them in a way that we can compare them, and we bring that information to the committee, and the committee is the one that's going to be voting on which projects are going to be approved. I think I answered your question, Maria. Okay. Chris?
So these are not submitted on a, excuse me, conceptual level with a conceptual budget. These are like hard, specific projects with hard budget. So if there's an award, it just proceeds. It's not like you have a concept and it's awarded and then you go out to find people to do it. So it's like almost like a hard bid type thing.
So just let me expand on that. I think with examples, we'll understand a little bit better. And the example we have is our current corridor, right? Well, Central Heber and Calexico. So there we had a budget about $7 million. And what we did with the projects is that we submitted for a request for proposals. Requests for proposals came in, we evaluated for emission reductions, we ranked them, and we recommended them to our committee. Now, we didn't put a cap on them. And the reason we didn't put a cap on them is because grants could vary from $50,000, and one specific one that we're doing sidewalk paving around Heber School is $4.1 million. So somebody received $50,000 in an urban greening project, but somebody received 4.1 million. And the reason we have a cap is because we don't know what type of projects we're going to receive. You may have a project that's $500,000 and another $1 million. But yet another community has one that's only $400,000. So we still have funding left in order to serve other projects. And I think that's the method we used over there. But again, that was the method recommended by our CEC members at that time. And here you have that power just to see how you're going to distribute that money.
Question, did you try to use that money to kind of get some match up from private companies or something to kind of broaden the impact of the grant?
We haven't done that to do a matching project, but definitely if it's recommended by the CEC, I think it's something that's going to be allowable. So yes, you could recommend, if you're part of the CEC members or part of the public, you are able to recommend that.
Any other questions before we go to the next slide? I think we're coming to the end of the slides. Oh, let's go back one slide. I know in the agenda we had set some time aside so that since we were expecting all of our applicants to be present, we wanted to set some time so that if you'd like, if you've submitted an application, if you'd like, we would ask you to introduce yourselves and answer another question, why you would like to be a steering committee member. I'll look for volunteers first.
Let me just expand on that. I think this is really
It's
interesting.
optional.
It's optional. This is our first kickoff meeting. We don't officially have a CEC for this meeting, but yet we do have a few applicants that wanted to come and express themselves and let us know why they want to be part of the CEC. And the process is that once we evaluate 3 members from Westmoreland, 3 members from Brawley, and 3 members from Calipat, it has to be not a vote, but we have to take it to our board of supervisors for approval. So that's the reason we do not have an official CEC committee today, because we still have to do that portion that is part of the requirements. But I'm glad you guys are here.
I did see someone that raised their hand, so we'll just walk over here and thank you, brave soul.
Not brave. Eric Reyes, longtime community advocate for all types of issues, also including air quality. Obviously, air quality is #1 on people's minds. We have the highest asthma rate, respiratory issues, heart attacks related to air quality and the heat. And you're seeing that heart attacks are going to grow because of the increased heat. So we can't stop the heat. We can try to improve air quality. And what we've seen is that investment before has not gone towards proper projects that the community would like to do. And you have science behind some of the investments that they have made before, but there's also a ground truth science. Do people who live in that area say it's improved now? And that's what we believe in, I believe in. I think that's why I want to be on there. I work obviously in this, not just here, but in other areas. And I know the AB 617 can be a tremendous starting point. It's not the only thing we can do. There's much more we can leverage. You said matching funds, there's also state. We can create a demand policy for our community through AB 617.
I see a second hand. Thank you, Eric.
Maria Nava Frolik. I'm actually a city council member, mayor of the city of Calipatria. And the reason I submitted an application to be considered is because our northern community, in this case Calipatria, I see a lot of need, And so I want to partake and be at the table to see some projects that are badly needed in our North End community, city of Calipatria. We've been neglected for a long, long time, Calipatria and Island, and I know some of the opportunity will also go to Brawley and Westmoreland. But I really feel that Calipatria, the Main Street, the Sorensen, anything coming into the city of Calipatria, we're a very poor community, and we are suffering because the water company, Golden State Water, is a privately owned company, and a lot of the trees have died, the landscape is dead, our parks are dry, and so there's so much need, and that's the reason why I applied. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Maria. Chris? Oh,
Might as well follow Maria. I'm her husband, or as Virginia's fiance would say, I'm the first man of Calipatria. I think this is a great opportunity, Femi and team and Belen and Israel, and I really believe in that. Needing like a tripod, it needs the state, it needs the district, and it needs us. And I think we can be leaders to make this happen. Really, it's a great opportunity to identify the causes, sort of prioritize them. I'm thinking to myself, what is an emission? What's a harmful emission? What's which ones can be mitigated or eliminated? And we have the opportunity to do it. And I just would like to be a part, and I welcome it. Thank you.
thank you, Chris. Hector? Oh. All right.
Hector Cervantes. I live in Calapat. I just want to be part of the solution, trying to figure out what the heck we can get more money over there. And actually not just Calapat, just the North End in general. I just feel that the North End anyways, just they get left out on a lot of things. And this is one of the ways to try to make things better, find solutions to get it done. Whether it be, paving the roads, planting grass, planting trees, whatever it might be, just help out with everything.
Thank you. My name is Juan Gonzalez. I live in Brawley. My background is in biosystem engineering, but I'm a dad, and I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm really concerned about the air. I grew up in a city with the air quality as bad or even worse than is here, and still now I suffer from whenever the air is bad. This is the biggest problem other than the heat, like today. But I think that this is a great opportunity to make a change, to make impactful interventions that can help every one of us. Thank you.
Ladies first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janita Figueroa, a resident of Brawley. My interest for why I submitted to be a part of the steering committee. I've been a resident of Brawley my entire life, and I've grown to have a passion for trying to make a difference here. My biggest, I would say, the reason why I would want to be a part is I've seen our cities be ignored. I've seen our cities, and I've even seen our cities be managed by the same voices. And I think as a resident of Brawley, I'm still in my early 20s, and I feel like young people, if they had the opportunity and they weren't so worried about other things in life, right, they'd be more involved. So as a young person, I think it's important to be involved as well and not just let the same voices continue making decisions for our community that we know. That I grew up here. I grew up with asthma. I know how hard it is to be outside in the air quality. So excited to hopefully be a part of this, whether it's as a committee member or just a part of the public, and continue to be engaged.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the back.
Good evening, everybody. Sergio Valenzuela. I'm an air quality technician, and I'm a lifetime resident of Westmoreland and a couple years in Brawley. And I'm happy to say that finally the North End is getting some love, because I know I was part of the AB 617 when it was in Heber, Central Calapat, and I was always wondering when are we going to get some funding? Because there's a lot that can be done for our community. You know, we're 3 small cities that together, you know, we could be very beautiful and do a lot of things and accomplish a lot for our community. And it's exciting to know that there's finally opportunities to have those moments and opportunities to, you know, make the communities better, more thriving. And I would just love to be a part of it because I have some knowledge in air quality, and I would like to be able to put that to use with my community and hopefully give back and get something going.
Good evening. My name is Mario Lopez. I'm a resident from Westmoreland, second generation. I got a couple kids. Struggle one of them with asthma, and so I want to be part of it so I can leave them a place where they live and grow up. And the future generations, we got to take care of them. And I think I bring some value. I've been involved in a steering committee before I get the red out through Caterpillar Empire, previous employee. So I'm committed because I have family and I want my kids to grow up in everybody else's family in a healthy environment. So.
Thank you. Virginia Mendoza. I have a dual interest as to why I want to be a CSC member. As a lifetime resident of Imperial Valley, and recently 2 years plus in the city of Brawley. I also serve in the Transportation Commission of is my job. So I think I have good perspective to be able to provide in this particular group. I would be transitioning from the south to the north, and the other colleagues would be representing on the south end. So I think this is a great opportunity. I would like to just pitch that, you know, perhaps there be some potential interest to or opportunities to be considered for additional funding on the north end, because I think 3.75 million is great, but just having that general background on infrastructure investment and the cost of it, there's much larger needs, especially to really expand on the regional connections between these 3 communities that are very much going to be impacted by lithium development and these conversations that are being had at the regional level. But there's so much opportunity and a need. And I think that from a quality of life perspective, there's just so much investment that can be really meaningful for our community. So
I'd like to
Sergio,
thank
you're
you.
not gonna dare?
I'm sorry, I'd like to thank you.
I volunteer,
Virginia.
Sergio.
Before we go on to Sergio, I mean, I just want to say that Sergio and Virginia, they are part of our corridor. We call it corridor, but I mean, I guess now we have to start calling it South End or something like that. But I don't know if everyone noticed, but I mean, that comes with experience, because when Virginia said something about funding, she didn't look at the rest of us. She looked at a certain person. Yes, Femi.
I noticed that too.
Sergio Cabañas, thank you for inviting me to be here and the opportunity, if it given, to migrate to the north end. It's almost 6 years ago that I got invited to the very first meeting in the city of Calexico at the library, when this was only a concept about what we can do. I think so. Some of us that we want to migrate, we bring a lot of experience, and probably will expedite the way this committee becomes a committee, and we start looking for that money to be applied to these communities. We didn't have any bylaws at the time. We spent 1 year, pretty much, and I'm going to put it in a sense, between the members fighting against each other to come into an agreement, until I finally, I will say, and I always that, I got mad in one of the meetings and I said, this is it, I put the vote, let's move on. We have accomplished a lot in the South End. I'm proud of one of the things that were accomplished. John was there along with me. She was, you substitute somebody who retired. But I think though, this is great for the north end. I have migrated in my work to certain areas in the north end, and that's why I want to be part of this. I understand the needs. I understand what we need to do to improve. And one of the things, we need to diversify this committee. We need a lot of members. We need doctors. We need farmers. We need industry to be as part of this committee so we can really analyze the needs of the north end, the Brawley, Calipatria, Westmoreland, and why not an island if it's needed. So again, if I'm given the opportunity, I would like to serve in this committee too.
Well, just kind of want to remind everyone that you could live, work, or have a business within the community. So, yeah, Michael.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Llewellyn. Firstly, I wanted to take the time. Thank you all for being here. Community involvement, community organization is extremely important when facing these issues. I am a student at Imperial Valley College. I'm a resident of Calipatria, and I just so happen to be a city council member there as well. I wish to serve on this because I not only have a younger brother, but I believe it's important to recognize that getting involved in public service, whether it be running for office or volunteering, it's about our youth. It's about the future. It's about establishing something that's great, not only for today, but for years to come. And I believe that pollution, the air quality is extremely important in doing this. Just driving through Calipatria, right whenever you turn in, there are about 40,000 cows for 3,800 residents. You have air quality that you can't even see driving 100 feet in front of you. This hasn't been addressed by the state or even by the county. It's important to see these things not only from what are we going to do in a month or so, but what are we going to do when I'm not here for my children, for my grandchildren, and that's why I wish to be a part of it.
Anybody else? Just one thing that the program is based on going beyond our current regulations, and I mean it's we have a certain thing phrase offsets in the district is those are emissions that are above regulations. So anything that's done here is it's beyond any regulations that's out there. So if there's regulations that are regulating, we'll leave it for the next one. Sorry.
Oh, just a question, not understanding the current regulations much. Is that essentially the Federal Clean Air Act and it's just the implementation? Or on top of that, there's some state regulations? I was just wondering what current is because we're going to go beyond it, it sounds like.
Yeah, the program is actually beyond any regulations. That's if there's an industry out there that's that has a rule that applies to that industry, this is actually something that goes beyond that. Us as the air district, we do regulate that industry. So they're already being regulated through those rules that are local rules, state rules, and also federal rules. So.
I just want to echo what Virginia Mendoza said in regards to if there's an opportunity to ask for more state funding, because I also sit on the Transportation Commission, and as a city mayor, I realize that infrastructure is very expensive. And I'm thinking that 3.7 million seems like a lot, but when we start looking at all the projects and the cost, it's gonna go pretty quickly. Thank you.
Yes, I remember that workshop that we had. You mentioned already like $4 million in projects that you had that we're trying to spend, but the city does not have. So this is just a starting point. We started with a starting point in the South Corridor, and we did receive extra funding. Not that I am expecting extra funding, but I'm hoping for extra funding. And this is just our first step to that. So hopefully future-wise, they see the need and we obtain more funding for future projects and maybe future cities as well.
Okay, any applicants, additional applicants that might introduce? Okay, okay.
I was just going to make a brief comment because I didn't want to sound ungrateful. So I want to just first of all say thank you to CARB for the investment that you've done on the south end. I think it's been great. I just think that having the experience of the funding mechanisms at the state and federal level that are available through grant opportunities or call for projects, this particular call for project process that I observed on the south end is extremely user-friendly, I would say, in comparison to other type of funding sources that we see here in our region. One of the major impacts that we see as far as formula type of funding that we can see at the local level here for the county is very much impacted by our population numbers. And we have less than 200,000, right, in census data that shows how many people live here. So that really impacts the amount of money that the state or the federal government can justify to allocate and like to any type of formula funding. So 3.75 is great, and obviously, and it will be very, I think, impactful because of the implementation and ease of implementation that you've set up in your program. So I just wanted to express gratitude to CARB for that particular aspect.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Miguel Hernandez. I wasn't really aware that we are gonna sort of justify why we want to be here, but it's great to hear all of you guys pretty eloquent comments, and it's great to see a big interest in this program. I had the opportunity to be part of it since its early stages in the South End corridor, and this looks a lot different. I mean, this looks more, staff, perhaps CARB. Everybody's more aware of what the program is really doing or what the intentions are. I remember back then we were building the plane as we flew the plane, right? So, just to share a little bit of why I want to be part of the group. Well, I've been living here in Brawley for about a decade or so. A lifetime resident of the Imperial Valley, lived across the border for a few years as well, and pretty familiar with not only the process or the program. Like I said, I mentioned I was part of the support staff for the North End. I was also part of the CSC in the East Coachella Valley with the South Coast. So I'm pretty familiar with the program, but I'm also pretty familiar with what's impacting our communities, as I'm pretty sure you're all aware of, all different sources. I definitely have a lot of questions that I didn't get to ask back then that I guess I could ask now, and ask staff, and also ask for more funding, ask for the other cities that haven't been part of the program. We still have those other northernmost cities like Nyland, Bombay, Salton City that are still part of this big corridor that I could see, or I hope we see that connection between the East Coachella Valley community and bridge it all the way to the border. So that'll be my hope, to see the whole region be an AB 617 region now. Anyways, just wanted to wrap up by saying thank you to CARB staff, thank you to the Air Pollution Control District for this opportunity. Not sure I heard three members of each community. I'm not sure if that's sort of solid, but I think we have a pretty robust group here that has a lot of interest of being part of it, with good perspectives, different perspectives. And although everybody can participate as a member of the public, I think it will be worth a shot to see if we can make make this group work together, so we don't have to choose over another, or I don't know, just some food for thought. I think we have really good perspectives here that could bring some good ideas to the table. So, and just to be blunt about things, in transparency, I'm also I'm an employee with the state. I work with the California Natural Resources Agency. However, in this capacity, I'll be joining as a resident of Brawley. Thank you.
I just have a question about funding because a lot of people are concerned with it. So I saw that the past corridor used some funding to do an electric bus for the school. So I'm just curious how this program and programs like Energize and HVIP come into play. Like, can you apply for both, or is there like a restriction with double dipping? Or I don't know if that's a question for CARB or for the county.
So the issue with you're not double dipping if you ask for funding from other programs. So I'll start there. But it gets complicated when we talk about partnering funding, because kind of like I think we mentioned kind of partnering with the example of partnering with another company. It seems like it should be simple, but each program has their own criteria. So a partnered project would have to meet both to be able to apply that funding to both. So generally we try to do like an HVIP project, just be an HVIP project, and a CAP project be a CAP project. There's opportunities. Sometimes HVIP I think can be really restrictive. HVIP can be really restrictive. There's also Moyer. So Moyer is a good opportunity for funding as well. You mentioned another one, I'm drawing a blank on it now. Energize, so that's through the Energy Commission. So they have their own, again, program and criteria. We found ways to connect the Energy Commission's Energize program with a Moyer program that we have called VIP, which is a small fleet truck program, truck replacement program. So there are opportunities there. We're kind of trying to continue to build that. But again, when I talk about like agency partnerships, that's kind of an example. Like there's other agencies that have programs that can align with what we're doing. How do we make those types of things align together so that we can provide more funding towards the program? So it won't necessarily be just, asking CARB for more money, but actually, where do we actually find ways to align with what we're doing? So what I would do is I would try to get like either Moyer or CAP funding for the electric vehicle. Then I would look at CEC for the infrastructure, right? Because they lead on the infrastructure as an infrastructure agency. So their programs are geared towards that mostly. But I would kind of find those type of opportunities. Where can we find alignment? Because any electric vehicle that we do get, we got to find somewhere to charge it. And so that's a high priority to me. But again, through your CSC and your committees, figure out, okay, what can we do to drive some of that technology evolution that we're seeing in other areas?
Yeah, locally we are, go ahead, John. Good, John.
Sorry, John. It's open for applicants only. No, it's actually our next slide is the one for the public. Yeah. I'm sorry that someone said to make it fun. It's only because you're Hernandez, just like me. So.
And that's at Hernandez right there too.
That's why.
Let me say that what he said was that he thought maybe this should be expanded from a number that was thrown out there that was 9, and I think on the south end we had 15. And even though that was, tough for alternates, I think you're hearing here that we need to expand if it's possible. And the other thing that I wanted to really put out there for the community is that when this program began, and I was there from the beginning myself and advocated for it. Comité Cívico del Valle was a strong advocate for it, and they were written in as a partner. And I don't see or hear whether or not that partnership has been severed. But the community science and the community air monitoring was, it was born based on a community effort like the one here across the state, of which I also became aware. I was a state employee 16 years ago, by the way. I only did 34. So I understand how tough it was to get attention to this community. So my comment would be that if you're going to expand, yeah, I'll apply. I just live down the street. But I was working in El Centro, and I know what's coming 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And this could be the beginning of how our wish list will expand, and there will be other opportunities, and we'll be able to advocate definitely to friendly ears up and down the state and across the country and across the continent, because now we have, you know, the free trade agreement to think about, where we have Canada, United States, and Mexico. So this is huge, and we're part of something that's huge. So I welcome it to our community.
No, thank you, John. We do have applicants from Comité Cívico del Valle that applied for being a CSC members, and we do have him here present. The dynamic from the north end to the south end is going to change a little bit. One of those changes will be that there will be no co-chairs. We actually are going to leave for the cities, representatives of the cities, to lead or to manage our agendas, to manage what they want to talk about the agendas, obviously with the APCD's help. But each month you would say that we'll see Calipat is going, we're going to work with them with the agendas, and they're going to lead for that agendas. And then Westmoreland, and then Brawley. So we're going to change the dynamic a little bit. There's going to be no co-chairs. In the north end, we do have co-chairs. We have two co-chairs, which is the APCD and the Comité Cívico del Valle. And we have 15 primaries and 15 alternates. So it's a huge committee. This time around, we plan to have 9 members that are primary and 9 members that are alternates. So we still have to figure that out. We're still looking into the applications, but that's one of the changes that's going to happen with this committee, especially because the budget is lower than the one in Calexico.
And John, I mean, I do apologize. I mean, sometimes I joke a little too much, but that was my way of saying, John, the applications are right there. Not only John, but I mean, any other member of the community that's still interested. We're still receiving applications, and so we do have applications on the sign-in table. You're welcome to take one and submit them to us. I believe we're looking forward to maybe within a week or 2 weeks selecting the primaries and the alternates. So right now, I mean, our 5th slide is any comments from the public? Or okay.
So have the applications that you guys received, does it look like there's equal representation between the 3 cities, or is it going to be something that we should try to start reaching out to other community members within our cities to put in applications?
So we may have more than the 9 primaries. I mean, not more than the 9. We're going to have 9 primaries and 9 alternates. We may have more applications than that. They're more than welcome if they're not selected this time around. The charter that we are going to work with the CEC members, but we have a draft of it, calls for a 2-year commitment. If within those 2 years you want to change or swap, or I mean, it's up to the committee, then you could do that. So, but we are going to have the 3 primaries, and the 3 primaries are going to, I don't want to say lead, but they're going to be, leading that meeting itself for that month, and you're going to be notified.
I'm sorry, Eric. I thought.
Trying to be funny again? No, I'm joking. I was. So now that 617, the Southern 617 has done its primary work, I was told by one of the members that it has really dwindled. What lessons are we going to learn as far as participation from the committee members? What lessons do you think we're going to learn from that? I ask you guys.
I think that's one of the reasons why we want to get the 3 members of each city to kind of rotate as far as I kind of want to say kind of lead the monthly meetings. So by doing that, we're actually getting the members more involved in that and a little bit more committed to the CSC. That's one of them.
So for instance, the EPCD, Rural Comité Cívico, always gets together to see about the agenda. But it's always, you want to say, our topics, right? What we think you want to learn. This time around is going to be the other way around. What is that you want us to talk about? You tell us. Obviously, we also go in and include to finish up the charter, to finish up the code of conduct, talk about more about the CERB, talk about the camp. But we want to change that dynamic. You tell us what you want us to hear about, not us tell you what we think you want to hear about. Any other comments?
I'd like to kind of just go a little bit further as far as the way the applications are the ones that we have currently. I know the last few years the word equity has come up a lot, and that I see that's how we're going to be able to go a little bit into that. If we obviously we have more applications for the city of Brawley, but we want to make sure that each city is represented the same way with the three primary and 3 alternates. So I mean that's where I believe we go a little into that equity. Okay. It's part of the charter. It's part of those bylaws. We go back and forth. We refer to them as bylaws or charter, but it's on the draft that we're planning to present. I mean, as a starting point, we have it as 2 years. As 2 years. One thing that we did actually go through the I guess reapplication process in our south end, and it is pretty extensive. The whole program, there's a lot of guidelines, there's a lot of steps that we have to take. I mean, everything has to, if it's something like that, the committee approves it, we have to take it to the board, and well, we'll be taking it to the board, and they also have to approve it. So it's extensive. I wish it was 5 years so that we wouldn't have to go through that, but no, it'll be 2 years. I mean, yeah, it will.
Yeah, so one of the things that happened, and I'm going to be blunt about it here. Well, when we started back in the South Corridor, we started in 2019. So we had our committee, we went to the board, approved the board, went through the search, went to the camp, and then COVID hit, right? The pandemic hit. So for 2 years, we were doing more Zoom than anything else. Obviously, we couldn't do in-person meetings. So those 2 years extended to 4 years. At the 4th year, when we returned and we had the in-person meeting, we gave the opportunity to the CSC members to either reapply or, well, give us the resignation letter. More than half gave us a resignation letter. So we're going through the process right now of getting, again, a full membership for the CSC. So, I mean, then Sergio and some other members are going to this North End committee, so now we have to fill those seats as well. So yes, so we do give you the option of a 2-year. We know 5 years is a very long commitment, but it's up to you. You want to continue being part of this.
May we ask you to apply for additional funding for the North End? And maybe as an addendum, you know how sometimes you apply and it takes long? Is there an opportunity that you can request additional funding for the North End?
There's always opportunities for us to apply for the North End. And depending if it goes with the guidelines of AB 617, like Femi was saying, sometimes we could apply and it'll fit into the guidelines, but sometimes we have to follow the guidelines of AB 617, and we can't really follow the guidelines of the other grant. So we could explore the type of grant, but definitely it's a yes.
Thank you. Can you share a little bit of your selection process, like how the committee members will be selected based on certain parameters or based on the speech we just gave, or how's that gonna happen?
We're checking off right now how I will speak.
For Westmoreland, it's really easy because we don't have to deny anyone.
We only have a few applications. That's what he means.
Um,
I think it's not a process of elimination. It's more like, okay, who makes a fit? So we have Calipatria here, and we have a council member. We have two council members. I think it's proper to say that one council member is going to be the primary, and the second one is going to be an alternate. Why? Because they're two council members that, being two primaries, I think it's kind of redundant, you want to say, but he will fit very, or she will fit very properly as her alternate. And that's the way we see it. So it just depends. That's what I'm saying. We go through the applications. If you're in the same field, if you're similar, you want to say jobs, or that's how we qualify you. Not necessarily at what you said today, or no, it's just the fit, how you fit with that person. And if you are not, I think right now, if should we need any alternates, we would ask the primary to choose their alternate.
And the way the charters, draft charter specifies pretty much that the primary would choose an alternate from the applications that have been submitted. And I mean, I do see that also. I mean, a good fit is that we actually do have, I believe, one or two husband and wives. I mean, that's. I would imagine that they would be in the same, on the same, on the same path. So.
So we just to make it fair. I mean, we don't want to have one from one industry and the other way off from the other industry. And the reason for that is because we do request, or we do ask of the alternate to be at the meeting in case the primary is not there. But if you're there with a primary all the time, you'll know exactly what the next topic is going to be. You're going to be knowledgeable of that. So both the primary and the alternate get stipends to being at the meeting. So we do recommend that both are at the meeting.
Miguel, I know we didn't. I think we didn't clearly answer your question, but I believe everyone's going to be part of the committee.
I do have a question. As is, do you foresee participation being strictly in person, or will there be the option for Zoom option, or is that something that the committee members will decide amongst themselves?
One of the elements from that charter is also that final, like the final schedule, is also voted by the committee. We're looking into it's a lot of work what the committee has to accomplish. So the first, I'm thinking maybe 6 months. There's no question about it. I think it'll be in person. And that's, like I said, that's also one of the reasons that we wanted to have this kickoff meeting, to make sure that the applicants do understand that we're looking for that commitment. It is a commitment, and that's how the items that the committee has to approve, that's how they're going to get done.
Me and my examples. Let me just a quick example. The Calexico, Heber, and El Centro. Right now, at this time, we're doing one in-person meeting and 2 Zoom meetings. So that's something that the CE members did ask for. So that's what we're doing at this time. However, we're also 5 years into it. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to do, like finish up the projects. But there's a lot of information that we also have to provide to you. So that's why that in-person meeting, if we need an action item, that's the best way to do it.
I was just wondering if your charter also indicates the location of these meetings, and if they're going to be in one location only, or they're going to be going to the different communities. Are they going to be available to the public only in person? Will they be available in a recording, or will they be live streamed?
That's all. The charter, the current charter, actually the draft, it just specifies that at least one meeting per month. I didn't catch all the questions. Sorry about
If
that.
it's going to be live streamed, correct?
If it's going to be,
No, it's going to be 3 locations. So we have it here in Brawley. It's going to be Calipat. It's going to be Westmoreland. So we're going to rotate with the 3 locations. It is being live streamed. Mhm.
it is. It's being. This meeting is actually being live streamed too. There's no participation outside, but it's being live streamed. That's how we intend to pretty much do all of our future meetings too. Okay. Yes, we'll go to the next slide. Agency updates. I know CARB is updating a lot. Agency updates. You know what? Let me go up to the next slide. This website, well, this slide has a lot of the information where if you need additional information, we do have our county or our air pollution control district website. That's the first one. We have a dedicated website for the 617 communities. We do have a little bit to work on, and we have to work on that one since to update it to reflect that we have this new community, this new North End community, and we've been lately we've been a little bit more active on Facebook and Instagram. So I ask that you go in there and follow us and Instagram, and I wish for that part. I mean, I wish I would have my kids doing that, but luckily we are a diverse. We do have a diverse staff, and there's some of our staff are really knowledgeable in that. So if you ask me, I'm like, oh, I'll give everyone a call. All right. Set date for next meeting. Okay. I know we currently do not have an established committee, but we're thinking of August 14th. That's a Monday, and that's how we're thinking future meetings are going to be held on, like I believe it's every 3rd Monday of the month. We wanted to do it every 3rd Monday or every 3rd Wednesday, but seeing that there's other council meetings, school board meetings, transportation commission meetings, that 3rd Monday is what we've identified as the best fit for this current for this North End steering committee.
And as always, once we establish the CEC meetings, if we need to change that date for 1 month or so, you will vote on that. So you let us know.
Sorry, sir.
Check the date.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, good thing I'm an engineer. We're having our South End meeting on the 2nd Wednesday, so I figured this would be the 3rd Monday. So it's the 2nd month of I guess August, our next meeting.
What date is that?
Our 3rd Monday?
Yes.
Yeah, I said we keep it on the third Monday, because it'll be for the district. It would be there's going to be occasions where it's going to be on the same week for the south end and also the north end. So I think it's better to keep it on the third Monday.
The
Let us check the calendar. Everybody check the calendar here. Let's see.
Well, that third Monday is probably going to be when all the kids go back to school, so that might be a stressful day for a lot of parents. So the second, the 14th,
21st is
yeah,
the 21st.
that might be a stressful day because going back to school is going to,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So maybe that day is good for the next meeting.
So our future CSC members are requesting to be on the second Monday for this time around. So the 14th. I think it's fair.
It's fair.
Who votes?
It's fair. I mean,
We potentially it's probably going to be Westmoreland.
I just got back from vacation. I'm sorry. Any closing remarks? I guess. Nope.
Any closing remarks from anybody?
Anybody that anyone would like to say?
When you mentioned that once a project is approved or agreed upon and an RFP would be issued, is that open exclusively to businesses in the county? Or is it open to everybody?
It's open. It's once again, it's actually up to the committee who they want to open it up to. From what we've seen in the past, I mean, any projects or the process is we'll go out and we'll ask the committee what type of projects they would want to see. They'll let us know. We'll get a request for proposals ready, and we'll send it out. We'll start accepting applications, and once we have those applications, the committee will vote on them. So see what they would like to see as a project.
Yeah, for instance, if it's going to be school buses, obviously it's going to be only for schools, right? Paving projects, it could be open to public, to government, and to private. Exclusive to the corridor. So it's going to be exclusive for Westmoreland, Brawley, and Calipatria. Well, the contract, that's going to be up to the applicant. So the applicant, when they submit their application, thank you for that, submit their application, we'll be required to submit a quote as well. So who the contractor is, as long as they pay prevailing wages, I think that we're open to, we prefer local, obviously, but I mean, if that's not the case, it's not feasible, then we're fine with San Diego, or sometimes there are no contractors here locally. So we're fine with out of town.
So we're set. I guess August 14th, our next meeting. We'll send out an agenda and invite. There's under our AB 617 community. All right, www.icab617community.org. Oh, there you go. Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I believe we probably did not post it on the website.
Oh, yeah.
But there is a subscriber list on there that you're able to subscribe to both either the south end, the corridor, or the just Yeah, it's a, and submit, and then we'll add you to that subscriber list. And whenever we send out an invite, you'll get that.
And if you're signed in today with your email address, your contact information, you'll automatically be entered into that listserv.
That was part of the fine print on the sign-in sheet. Okay. Well, I know we're scheduled to end the meeting at 7:30. If there's nothing or no other comments, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to come and join us. I'll go back to the start. The three of us. We put that rocket ship there because, and the rocket ship? All right, sounds good. Because I think it's a beautiful start. I believe Femi. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. We'll, I guess, we look forward to all the future meetings.